that? Oh God, I'm gonna die. I gotta get this on camera. No. Hey everyone, welcome to the Marino Show. I'm your host, David Marino, and I'm very excited to have my guest today. Artist Israel Rico is with me. We met because I saw a painting of his come across Facebook that one of my friends shared that I was like, I have to have that painting. And then we met at a horror show, a killer clown event in San Antonio, and it's gone from there. So Israel, I'm so happy to have you. I know you also own Art Star Incorporated, which is all your art that you do. So thank you for being with me today.
No, thank you for having me. I appreciate the interview. I appreciate you reaching out as well. So let's shoot away.
Yeah. So I was so impressed with your art. As I said, you know, I went to that Killer Clown event in San Antonio and you had all of your various art on display. And I have to show the one that caught my attention on social media. It's Jaws, but Hello Kitty Jaws, which is hilarious that you painted. I have several others that are now up on my wall, but I'll show one I haven't hung up yet. This is the Scream, What's Your Favorite Taco? So one of the things that we talked about was that, and I saw this on your website, that you actually like mixed Chicano imagery and pop culture for a new generation. I loved reading that. And it's clear that it shows throughout your art. First of all, just tell me, how did you get started in art? Like, what was your inspiration to just get involved and paint the way that you do?
Well, I started doing art around fifth grade. I would read like a lot of comic strips. Peanuts was actually one of the first strips that actually got me into art. Hence, you know, the Frankenhooker Peanuts that's behind me right here. But I also got into comic book art, and there was a time where I wanted to be a comic book artist. But at the time, getting into comics is very hard. Now I think it's easy because people, they pretty much stream their own comics, they do that. But this is like back in the 80s or so. So when I got more into my artwork in high school, I would draw the banners for the football team that would break through the breakthrough banners and stuff like that. So then when I got into college, I said, well, you know, I kind of don't want to go into the comic art business because it was just so competitive and hard to get into. So I figured, you know what, I'm gonna see what I can do. So I kind of got into a little bit of a rut at one point in time. And then I saw this movie which is called Blood In, Blood Out. And that just pretty much uh it breathed new life to me, because it was not only a realization of studying about the culture of my people, but also getting into my genealogy as well. And so from there, I started self-educating, you know, books on the Aztecs, on the Mexican American culture, what have you. Because going to school back in my day, now they have Mexican American studies, which is great. My daughter actually did Mexican American studies, and she actually got to wear a sarape sash uh, in honor of that for when she graduated this past June. But for us, you know, learning Texas history, it was only the conquest of the Aztecs, the Battle of the Alamo, Battle of San Jacinto, and then the U.S. American War. And then maybe, Henry B. Gonzalez and Henry Cisneros was our mayor. And that was pretty much it. So I pretty much like self-educated myself reading about that. And it was like a breath of fresh air for me. So I had vacation in Chicago for about maybe like 6 months. And so I'm walking through, I go to my old watering hole, Bar America, and I see this newspaper called El Placazo, and I was like, oh, well, that's interesting, you know. And in the back, I turned it around, and it said looking for muralists, artists to submit their artwork for community newspaper. And it was like, to me, it was like I caught lightning in a bottle. And from there, I produced two murals here in town, and I'm so grateful for Sonata Cultural Arts. One of the murals got whitewashed, but the big mural that I had shown you at the show, that one we restored it in 2022, and the beauty of the generational gap between that is that myself and my nephew, we worked on that mural. My daughter worked on that mural. His kids worked on that mural on the restoration, and my wife did too as well. And Crystal Torres, who runs the restoration for Sanato Cultural Arts, she was, I think, probably about 7 years old or so, and now she runs the whole restoration project. So she actually made that happen, along with, I want to give a shout out to April Don Ceja, who was also the lead restoration muralist. And they said, hey, would you like to come along and restore your mural? And I said, yeah. And it's still there. It's already 25 plus years, and that mural is still there, which is surprising. So, but that's how I got into my artwork. And then from there, I started meeting different people. I started doing events with Centro Cultural Nazlan, Que Retro Arts, started doing Frida Fest. And then from there, it kind of like seeped into getting into the horror art. So now I'm starting to do horror shows, pop culture conventions as well, and it's just grown. And to mix both Chicano imagery and horror imagery or pop culture imagery for a new generation, it's like, what, it can be done, because there was at one point in time, uh, my cultural arts director, Manuel Castillo, rest in peace. He says, "What do you plan to do after you finish your mural?" And I said, "Well, I kind of want to do artwork where I can you know, mix those two things, and just twist it around." And he kind of told me jokingly, "Oh, it can't be done. It can't be done." But I wish he was still alive, because he'd probably be laughing at all the stuff that I put out ever since and all that. And here's another fun fact is that the two murals that I did, I didn't get paid for it. It was all voluntary, but I took a risk, and now, I'm reaping the rewards from, everything that I've been doing, ever since. And through it, I met a lot of people, and it's just so, I mean, it's just so mind blowing, especially, a couple of people that we know in Philly, Eileen, uh, Frank Aguilar from Strange Films. It's just a tight knit, and that's how little connections happen, so forth. And it's just, the journey's been great. I mean, I'm always grateful. I'm blessed, but it's been a great journey these past 20, 25 years.
Tell me about the mural that's still up in San Antonio and where it is. What is the mural of, and where can people find it in San Antonio?
Sure. The mural is at on 1305 South Brazos. It's across from the CC, and it is called Leyendas Aztecas. And it basically it is the you got I believe it's one, two, three. You have four legends, and it has the creation of the race of the fifth son, and then in the middle is the hierarchy of the Aztec Empire, which you had the priest, you had the jaguar warrior, the last Aztec emperor, which is Cuauhtemoc. Then you got the legend of the volcanoes, the legend of the sun, the legend of the sun and the moon, and then on the opposite side, you have the legend of Huitzilopochtli, which is the Aztec war god, and Coyosalacui legend as well. And it's weird because when I was studying to paint that mural, it was it's weird how Greek mythology, Chinese mythology, and Aztec mythology, and even Christianity, they're kind of related in that sense. And I was just like so overblown, and it was that mural's still up there. We just restored it in August of 2022. So yeah, so it's there. So go check it out. And also, it was also shown in the movie and you can catch it on Tubi. It's called Lowriders versus Aliens from Outer Space.
I love that so much.
I had done an outdoor market, and there's a guy who he DJs, and he does a lot of lowrider shows. And he goes, "Oh yeah, I know where this mural's at." He goes, and he goes, "I know where this mural's at." He goes, "Check out the movie." And when I saw the movie, there's a scene where they're cruising through the west side of San Antonio, and I see my mural in there, and I was like, "Oh wow!" It's like, I mean, I was just like so like it was just I was just shocked. I was just like totally shocked. It was funny, but I was totally shocked by it. So yeah.
Now, did you grow up in San Antonio?
Actually, no. I grew up in Elgin, Illinois. I was born in Elgin. I lived in Mississippi, and then we moved down to San Antonio in November of 1977. So I've been here ever since. I lived a year in Pasadena, Texas, and then and I lived in Chicago for maybe about like 6 months, and then I moved back over here. It was supposed to be a vacation, but I ended up staying longer than expected. But that's when I came back from Chicago. That's when I discovered San Antonio Cultural Arts. So that was it.
Why is it important for you to, to make sure that your art is representative? And especially, in 2025, it
Uh,
feels like representation is more important than ever. You've always been doing it, but for you, why is it so important to have that in your art?
I think it breathes a fresh new it breathes a fresh new life to it. Um, yeah, and like anybody can paint a picture of Michael Myers, but can anybody do it like in a different way of form? Or like for example, like a Godzilla painting that I did. Yeah, I can. I mean, I could do different types of Godzilla paintings, but it's like why don't let's twist it a little bit. It's what I want to quote Ray Manzarek from The Doors, because The Doors is one of my favorite groups. And Ray Manzarek always said, Jim Morrison always wanted to test the bounds of reality. He goes, let's see what's on the other side of that wall. And usually that's what I like to do with my artwork. I like to see what's on the other side of that, like uh for example, the Hello Kitty painting that you own. My daughter, she's doing nails, right? So she said, uh Dad, you got to do this as a painting, this Hello Kitty. I said, okay, but Hello Kitty has to be nude. And she goes, why did she have to be nude? I said, because in the movie, Chrissy Watkins is swimming nude. I even got some flack from a friend of mine saying, why couldn't you give her double D's instead of A cups? I go, well, because she's not, voluptuous, and so it's one of those things where I pay a little bit attention to detail in the artwork as well. But and there's another thing too. I do the same thing sometimes with my Virgen de Guadalupe paintings. I like to I like to see what's on the opposite side of that. Like I've done like variations of Darth Vader's of Virgen de Guadalupe or Ghost Faces of Virgen de Guadalupe, and people recognize that and they see that and they say, man, that's very unique. But it's not to offend or to uh it's not to offend anybody. It's to just see how far I could go with it, see if people can recognize the similarities. And I think that's the beauty about art, because art is universal, much like poetry, much like music. There's different genres. There's different forms of music, art, poetry, different forms of radio as well. So that's it. They're just different art forms.
I love it. And I love the spin that you take, just saying what you're saying. I always look for those types of pieces like this. I have a bunch of stuff on my wall, but I have some art that is similar to this, where it takes something that's known in pop culture, but it sort of flips it on its head and it does something like with you with the Chicano culture. So I think that's really, I feel that that's really kind of a new take on things that we grew up with. For me, I grew up in the 80s. I grew up watching the slasher films. Those are my favorite types of horror movies. Speaking of horror movies, the horror genre, especially in San Antonio, the love for horror, it's so big, and there's such a big support for that in San Antonio. Did you ever see yourself sort of being kind of involved in the horror world and to kind of have like such a following now with the horror fans because of your art? I mean, was that something you ever envisioned happening?
No, it actually, to be honest, it happened by accident. I had done an event called Zombie Walk, and I said, "Oh well, you know what? Let me see if I could do." I did let me go back. I did do some original horror ones, like my very first ones. I wasn't too happy the way they came out, but then I decided to do like, well, let me see if I could do some loteria cards. And of course, you know, you own the Kukui one. I think you bought the Kukui print, and I started with that one, and I just went on with El Carnicero, which was Leatherface, La Poseída, which is uh, Reagan possessed, and I just went from there. And then I got with Kings of Horror, that they hold events at Wonderland, and so I got with them, and so I started doing events with them. Then I started doing events with Retro City. Then Get Retro Arts would do maybe they would probably do maybe an event in October, and I would do that, and then I just started. You know, I want to say it just steamrolled. It's kind of like when Picasso started drawing his bulls and he did different types of bulls. So it just like I said, oh, I like this, you know, and I go, let's take a ride on this journey and see, you know, where it takes me. And I met a lot of interesting people along the way. I met a lot of the actors. Some of the actors, they follow me on Facebook. Um, I've had even actors come to my table. Nicholas Vincent from Hellraiser, he hung out with me for about like me and my wife for about 20 minutes. And we were just talking about anything in just art in general. We weren't even talking about like his role in the movie of Hellraiser or anything like that. Amanda Bierce was the same way too. We were just talking about just things in general, and it's so cool when when they come down and they, you know, they come to your table and they see your stuff, and then um the journey's been great, especially meeting a lot of the horror icons as well, you know. I mean, that's it, that's just the cherry on top, you know. And sometimes what I like to do is I like to give them either prints of my artwork, and I say just as a form of thank you for the influence and what have you. And I mean, it's just been a great journey, but I never expected it to go that route, to be honest.
So you do the different types of events, horror events. Have you ever put on like your own like art show or like where could people kind of catch you if they I know they can follow you on Facebook and Instagram, but what kind of things do you do out in the community to showcase your art aside from like the horror shows? Do you take part in other types of events as well?
Yeah, actually, I have two places where I have my artwork uh, hanging up. One is at Southtown Mexican Restaurant, and that is located at 1032 South Presa. And there, it's pretty much nonchalant for me. I can put horror and I can put like Mexican art in a mix. I mean, and it's weird because yeah, you know, in a Mexican restaurant, usually it's, you know, art with the man with the sombrero and the cactus, and it's like, you know, fuck that, you know. I'm gonna you know, I'm gonna put horror up there, and it's weird because sometimes, you know, people will buy my artwork, you know, they'll like, oh, I like this art piece. Then the other place I have my artwork at is at El Luchador Bar. Um, and that is at 722 Roosevelt Avenue. Um, it's weird because the people that own the Luchador, Ben and Bonnie Lopez, they have a Bonnie runs a tax office, and when you go into the tax office, if you look to the left hand side, she has nothing but a gallery of my artwork. And so, you know, people say, hey, you know, we saw your pieces at, you know, at Lopez tax office, or they say, hey, I saw your pieces at a luchador, or they'll say, hey, we saw your pieces at the Haven Southtown. And you know, like I said, I'm grateful for the Lopez for the Lopez family and the Torres family at Taco Haven as well, or Southtown Haven as well, because I mean it's grateful when you build a trust, but not only that, you build a community, and they've entrusted me to have my artwork up there. I mean, everything is pretty much carte blanche at this point. But I do sometimes do like little mini pop ups during Fiesta or whenever the weather is a little cooler outside of Taco Haven as well. Now, another avenue that I've gone into too is designing Fiesta medals with Fiesta Medals Direct as well, and we're currently working. I have a screen medal that I just did, and then I did another design for a friend of mine, and I'm currently working on two designs as we speak that I don't want to disclose just yet, but yeah, but it's crossed over to other things as well, you know, and like I said, you know, it's the sky's the limit at this point, you know. But that's pretty much it, and you can find me at events at either at Ingram or at Wonderland, or sometimes at the I forgot what it was called, the with the Dream On group with Get Retro Arts. But they're supposed to, I think, they're supposed to be moving to the Villa building in on the west side of San Antonio, and hopefully I'll be able to do some art shows there with them as well. And I also do two shows in the fall, which is the Dia de los Muertos show at Centro Cultural Aztlan and the Virgen of Guadalupe show too as well. And those are gallery based shows, but I vend my cultural stuff and stuff. And it's weird because like I remember one year we did a preview to Frida Fest, and I didn't sell any of my Frida stuff. All my horror stuff sold at preview to Frida Fest. So yeah, I mean, but it just depends on the type of audience that you get. But again, it's the scary part, but it's the fun part. It's like the surprising part. Like, wow.
Well, and the fact that people are buying your art, you know, whether it's what was intended to be bought or just in general, I mean, it has to feel good to see that your work is being shown, whether it's in a restaurant or whether it's just like me, someone seeing it just randomly and then getting to know you and buying it. You know, as far as the future goes and what else you'd like to be involved in, is there something that you would like to do with your art that you haven't done yet? Whether it's a type of show you want to do or just a type of like display you want, is there something that you would like to accomplish that you haven't yet been able to accomplish?
Hmm. That you know, it's weird. That's a tough question because I you know, to be honest, David, I mean, I pretty much accomplished everything that I wanted to do. I mean, I've been published. My artwork's been published. It was published in a book in Mexico, where they used a Virgen de Guadalupe Wonder Woman that I had, uh, that I sold to a good friend of mine. Her name is Karen Faye Vaca, who does some great Chicano artwork as well. She's getting more into like doing sculpture and stuff. Um, my mural's been recognized by the San Antonio Current. I've had an actress from Blood In Blood Out buy two of my pieces. Um, you know, you know, I have I've done murals, so I pretty much have accomplished what I wanted to do. I mean, just the little things now are just like, you know, cherries on top. Pretty much, I've been recognized by Texas Monthly in a magazine article where they were taking pictures of I forgot the lady's name, but she lives in a historic district of King William, and she's standing in front of this painting that I had done of Madonna, which is mimicking the Virgen of Guadalupe, but it's mimicking the Like a Virgin uh, uh, album cover. So, you know, so like they've shown that. I mean, I've been published in Essay Life. I've had so many uh, uh, you know, people just recognize my art through the media and stuff like that. So I mean, I pretty much accomplished what I intended to do, and I just like to stay humble, and what I like to do is enable other artists, young artists that are coming up, give them advice that, you can go into advertising, you can go into computer animation, you could, I mean, I like to mentor other young artists, because there's some artists there that uh, they do their artwork, but they don't go full fledged. And Manuel once told me that to do murals, when he started signing up for cultural arts, he didn't just want to do murals to get a popular artist that was well known in San Antonio. He wanted to get people within the community to paint murals. He would consider those talented people in the barrio diamonds in the rough, and and all you got to do is just you know shave off the rough edges, and mentor people and give them advice. I've met a couple of artists, well-known artists in San Antonio. I won't name them, but one of them just snubbed me. Like, I asked him for advice, and so I took that as, if I ever get to a point where people like my art and people want to ask me, hey, what can I do to better my artwork? I just give them advice, because I mean, my friend Karen even says, you're my mentor. You're my mentor. I go, no, I didn't mentor you. You had that talent all along. You know, you just blew it up. And actually, I don't know if you could see it here, but she did this art piece right up here. That Sarape artwork right there.
Oh, that's nice.
That's
Yeah.
Karen Faye's artwork. So yeah, so it's just mentoring people, giving them great advice, and just let them know, hey, if you have the talent, do it, and I mean, that's just something that I like to do, that way, they learn from their experiences, and they go along. I have a good friend of mine too. Her name is Tristan Rodriguez, and she likes to mix Chicano imagery and anime too as well. And she goes, "I don't think this will work. I don't think this will work." And I just said, just stay on it. Keep at it. And sometimes, artists, they get discouraged, but I always tell them, don't be discouraged. I met one comic book artist, Sam de la Rosa. I met him back. I met him back at one of the early comic book shows that they used to have at the Econo Lodge, and this was at the time before he got popular. He started working on major books like Venom and Spider Man. He was just starting out as a freelance, and one of the advice that he said was, you got to be consistent and persistent. So when I saw him at Big Texas 2 years ago, I go, hey, I remember your advice, and he goes, well, what are you doing now? I go, I'm doing murals, and I go, I thank you for that advice that you gave me on that.